This is the Messiah Hour with Ari Lewis.
All right, welcome everyone to today's episode of the Messiah Hour here on IsraelSportsAndNewsRadio.com. Thank you for joining us. If you'd like to send an email throughout the program, you can do so at MessiahHour@gmail.com, or you can email the station at IsraelSportsAndNewsRadio@gmail.com. And if you'd like to make a financial contribution to the program, you can do so through my PayPal account, IsraelSportsRadio@yahoo.com. The PayPal account is different than the website, so I'll repeat it one more time, IsraelSportsRadio@yahoo.com. So many things going on with the world, with Israel, things to do with Israel, things to do with Jews and anti-Semites, and we want a person who is an expert in the news media to come on and talk about that. So on the line right now from Real Clear Israel, back to the program, Leslie Stoffel. Leslie, how you doing out there?
I'm good, Ari. How are you?
Doing great. It's great to have you on. Let's talk about some of the top stories. A very interesting situation with Geller's ads in New York. And for those who haven't followed this, there's an ad that's going to say that the way of jihad is to kill Jews. That's what extreme Muslims want to do. It's been allowed by the courts to be in New York City, so the people in New York City will see those ads. Tell us some more information about the story.
Well, Pamela Geller is she's basically a human rights activist, and she is very pro-Western, and she's anti-jihad. The Western media go after her and call her all sorts of really terrible names, but really she's just trying to stand up for free speech. So what she did was I should mention she has her web page is Atlas Shrugs. She's also been, by the way, she and Robert Spencer, who have both been banned from Britain, which is very, crazy. They allow all kinds of jihadists to go in and out and speak and do all kinds of things there, but they banned Geller and Spencer. But anyway, she responds to ads. Like, they had some really egregious anti-Israel ads going on around New York. They have them actually going on everywhere, and she responds by doing the opposite with the ad. Like, she'll take their ad and twist it, because they have these my jihad is going for a run, and they try to water down what they're doing. Anyway, so she'll take what they do and she'll twist it around, just like they do with their anti-Israel ads. So she had to fight to get these ads up, and so this ad that she got quotes from Hamas TV exactly what they say, and then that this is this guy's jihad, which is to kill Jews, and that's what it says in the Quran, and it's all over YouTube. I mean, it's not hard to find these things, what they say, but it's been very controversial, and of course, they want to kill the messenger, which is Geller, and all she's trying to do is just bring this out. And I saw her on a couple of interviews, and what she's just trying to do is to say, look, there's a problem here. We're not saying all Muslims do this. We're just saying that there is a very, very big problem with jihad, and we need to talk about it. We need to try to do something about it. And so that's what the story is behind those ads. And the judge deemed that it is free speech and she can say it. And they are trying to say, well, it's your fault if more jihadists go nuts and kill people. And she's saying, no, that isn't our fault. That's happening anyway, and we need to bring it out in the open, and we need to stop being censored by Sharia compliant media and whoever else wants to stop this stuff. So from my understanding, and I've followed her since 2008, so I know I post her stuff all the time. So I have a pretty good idea about why she does what she does, and that's pretty much the story behind those ads.
What do you think will be the reaction from extreme Muslims or people that sympathize with their cause? Do you expect to be a violent reaction, or maybe they would strike some ad of their own in retaliation? What do you think is going to happen?
Well, they do. She does. This has been going on for quite a long time. She's been doing these ads for, I think it's been a few years now, and they do come back and do their own ads, and they do try to get her shut down. She just was able to speak at Brooklyn College, and I watched to the young people there, the students, and I watched the video, and it was very, very disturbing. At the end, there were a lot of Muslim students in the audience, and they were heckling her and trying to shut her down, and talking really loud while she was trying to speak. And then at the end, when she left, I think that she ended the question and answer period and she left, and they were all starting to scream out Allahu Akbar, and she needed to have a brick thrown at her head, and she needed, and they started saying, from the river to the sea, Palestine will be free, which is a euphemism, of course, to rid all of Israel, all of the land of Israel, of the Jews. It's, and so her entire speech, which was about free speech, they ended up at the end of the speech deteriorating down to basically let's kill the Jews. So this is what she's up against, and she's one brave woman, because most of the liberal media, not just in North America but around the world, of course, as you can see, want to stop any kind of dialogue or free speech. As she says now, truth is the new hate speech. And so this is what we're facing. And she's a very, very brave person to take this on, because she's been treated terribly, but she still keeps going because she knows and believes it's the right thing to do.
Do you think that it will somehow change the American consciousness of what exactly jihad is, and that it's not something to play around with, it's something to take seriously? Do you think the American people will look at these ads, I know they're in New York, but will have an effect on the rest of the country? Will they take jihad in a different manner?
Well, I think people who really want to know, there are middle of the road people there who are intelligent and want to see both sides. And once they actually start to really see what's going on, just from viewing what is really happening around the world, the bloodshed and the beheadings and all this, I think people are going to start to wake up. Of course, there are always going to be the die-hard, whatever you want to call them. I don't know. They seem to be in a Stockholm kind of syndrome with these abusive, murdering jihadists, and they will never want to see the truth. They will never, ever want to see the truth. They're just going to side with savagery no matter what. Even if it comes to the point where the savages are coming after them, they're still going to side with them. We've got those all over the world. They have them in Israel, they have them here. But I think on average, an average person who starts to see what's really going on in the world and sees these ads will understand. I think people will slowly start to see what's really happening. She does things tongue in cheek. Like, she takes what they do and she twists it around, and to use irony in a way. So, you've got to be somebody who can kind of see that. But personally, I think it has to be done, and I think it's necessary, very necessary, because I really pay close attention to all this sort of thing, and when I see how somebody like her and Robert Spencer, and there's a few of them out there that really stand up and try to educate people about this, they're treated so badly. They're just maligned and sidelined and dismissed, and it's to our detriment. We need these people. We really, really need these people who are willing to stand up, because the, the, the whole thing about trying to silence them is actually taking on the Sharia without without being told that we have, do you know what I mean? Like, it's self-censorship, which is, our Western civilization stands on the cornerstone of free speech. We're lost if we lose that.
That's for sure. Not a good situation regarding that. Again, this is the Messiah Hour here on IsraelSportsAndNewsRadio.com. And our guest this afternoon is from Real Clear Israel, Leslie Ann Stoffel. Leslie, let's switch gears and talk some American politics. Since the last time we spoke, Hillary Clinton has made it official she'll be running for president in 2016. And what's interesting is a story coming out about some shifty issues regarding monies and regarding also, you told me uranium as well, and that looks a little dodgy. Please tell my audience a bit about it.
Yeah, okay, well, first of all, it's kind of interesting to go back with Hillary Clinton recently about the Benghazi scandal, where 4 Americans died, and it came out, the White House and the State Department tried to lie and say that attack on the consulate in Libya was caused by some kind of a anti-Muslim movie or something, and it turned out to be a big lie, a huge lie, and they still haven't really gotten to the bottom of all this. But basically, those 4 people, those guys who died there, were left on their own, and we know the story about that. But that's just one of the huge red flags about Hillary Clinton. And then the other recent thing is she had mixed her personal email with her governmental email, and then which isn't allowed from what I understand. And then she went ahead and she had it on her very own server, and then she wiped her server clean, which is, again, very, very suspect. And these 2 things in themselves should disqualify her, in my opinion, from even running for president. But anyway, now the next thing coming up is countries were donating to her foundation in return for favors. So I found this excerpt here from the New York Times, because there's a book coming out about this. So I'll just read this a little bit here, because it's called, it says the book, let's see. Oh yeah, the book, there's a book coming out called Clinton Cash, The Untold Story of How and Why Foreign Governments and Businesses Helped Make Bill and Hillary Clinton rich. And it's by investigative journalist Peter Schweitzer. And so something that the New York Times wrote about it says, the book, a copy of which was obtained by the New York Times, asserts that foreign entities who made payments to the Clinton Foundation and to Mr. Clinton through high speaking fees received favors from Mrs. Clinton's State Department in return. It goes on to say, let's see here, there were different things going on, but basically, there was a company that was purchasing uranium from them, and now apparently Russia owns something like 50% or more of the U.S. uranium, and it's through this deal. And now they're finding out that it might even be related to Iran getting their uranium through this Russian company. So there's a whole lot of stuff going on here. It's quite complicated. So if anybody wants to really delve into it, it's actually, there are videos now. There's a whole story done on Fox News about it. There are stories coming out on the New York Times, and it's actually quite a big story. So if anybody wants to look it up, they can, because it is quite complicated and involved. but it basically boils down to countries buying favors for themselves through the Clinton Foundation. And it kind of goes on it's right on the line between legal and ethical issues. So there's still questions as to the proof of the indictability of this sort of stuff. So we'll have to wait and see how it plays out. But it's very, very, very fishy, and it's really cause for alarm. Very much cause for alarm. And somebody like this shouldn't even be close to even wanting to run for president. Someone this corrupt, it would be, I don't know, Ari, it's mind-boggling, very mind-boggling to me that this woman has the gall to actually even put herself out there for the president of the United States after she has proven to be so corrupt. But this is our world now. It's very disheartening.
Well, one of the things I found interesting when Barack Obama ran for the presidency, there were different rumors about his allegiance to people in the Weather Underground, Jeremiah Wright, different monies he received, and kind of the press buried it. I mean, now that we know this, and it's 2 years to go until the election, a little more than 2 years, will you think the mainstream media will report a little harder on it?
I really don't think so. It's kind of hard to say. The mainstream media is so corrupt themselves, so it's just very hard to say. You see, that's why I'm saying it's hard to say, because the New York Times, who's very much left wing, has been bringing this story out. So I was thinking about this the other day. I was thinking, now it seems like the hard left media, the media that doesn't ever really bring anything up, they're actually kind of starting to go after Hillary. And I'm thinking, who wants to bring her down? Is there a reason now that they're doing this? Because somebody wants to bring her down, and that's why they're covering it. Otherwise they wouldn't be covering it. You know what I mean? Things are so murky now in our society. Everything's so corrupt that I feel suspicious about things like, well, they don't normally do this, so why are they doing it? And I feel like I can just never get a straight answer out of the institutions that I'm looking for answers. So I just always try to do my own research. I go to all kinds of different, areas and look for things so that I can try to find out what is going on. But I do know, people are suspicious. I know that people are suspicious of Fox News too. I know they do try to bring out both sides of the story, but they have done a big story. They at least have done a big story on this. So hopefully, that will help, but it's really hard to say, Ari, honestly, because we don't get the straight story on very much these days.
That's for sure about that. But again, that's why we're having you on, so we do get the truth of what's going on. Again, this is the Messiah Hour here on IsraelSportsNewsRadio.com. Thank you for joining us. Of course, you can find the show on YouTube. Go to YouTube, type in Messiah Hour with Ari Lewis, and subscribe to the YouTube channel. It is free to do so. And, of course, you can make a financial contribution through my PayPal, which is IsraelSportsRadio@Yahoo.com. Again, IsraelSportsRadio@Yahoo.com for the PayPal. My guest this afternoon is Leslie Ann Stoffel from Real Clear Israel. Let's talk about the Republican headliner, which is Jeb Bush. Talk about his chances of winning the nomination and eventually the presidency.
Well, now, again, here's the thing that I've heard different people say. I've listened to different talk shows and read things. And what I hear people saying, my conservative friends in the U.S. saying, first of all, they're sick and tired of dynasties. They don't want the Clintons, and they don't want the Bushes either. this isn't a monarchy. They don't want these family dynasties to keep rehashing themselves within the the presidential system, whatever. And the two problems I've heard about with Jeb Bush is he's for Common Core, and Common Core, the educational within the educational system, has been really problematic. I've seen some of the stuff online, and it's I don't know, it's quite odd. And they teach, they really are using Common Core to try to indoctrinate students with Islam, of all things. So there are a lot of parents that are really fed up with that and are not happy about that at all. And Jeb Bush is backing Common Core, and also he isn't wanting to put a strong he isn't putting a strong face forward when it comes to amnesty. Like, he's sort of wanting to go along with this crazy amnesty thing that Obama's doing, which is to bring thousands upon not just thousands of but millions upon millions of people into the US and just give them amnesty. They a lot of them, are in poverty. They're not. It's not going to be all that. I mean, I personally don't have. I'm not one of these people that I don't have a problem with immigration or anything like that at all myself personally. But I'm saying bringing in thousands of sort of poverty-stricken people that aren't vetted and are going to be a huge drain on the entire system is problematic. And another thing I just read the other day was a lot of these people were sent letters by the Democratic Party for them to hurry up and get themselves sorted out before the next election of who they're wanting to vote for, so they can be part of the Democratic voting system or something. So as crazy as it seems, a lot of them, they're being brought in so that they can all vote Democrat, and they're never going to have another Republican president again. Like, some of it seems like conspiracy theory stuff, which I really hate to go down that road. But I have heard, prominent commentators actually say that, so I don't think I'm barking up the wrong tree there. And
you have mail.
With Jeb Bush not wanting to put some serious limits on this and take a really hard look at this and do something that will help the American population, that's really turning people off. So the fact that he's a Bush and people don't want that, the fact that he's, for these two controversial things that are actually more of a I guess he's considered more of a rhino, which really annoys the conservative voting person and, probably the independent voter as well. But, yeah, so that's as far as I know about that.
Do you think there's a guy, Jeb Bush has the name and he's going to have a lot of money for fundraising, yeah, but is there a guy in the Republican Party that could beat him in the primary?
Well, I don't know, Ari, at this point. I think it might be too close to tell. I am keeping a close eye on it. I know some people like Cruz, but it's really, really hard to say, because if the media gets behind Jeb Bush, and like you say, he's got all the money, and somehow it just kind of gets railroaded through, it's really hard to say. But I think that Cruz was looking pretty good to a lot of people. So yeah, but it's a bit too hard to, at this point for me personally, it's hard to say, because I'm not an expert on American politics, but that's just my take at this point.
Any chance you think we can convince Mike Huckabee to run?
I thought I thought he was going to. Maybe he will. I think he'd be a really good choice. And like we talked about before, I think the Christian religious side of him, I think that kind of makes people nervous because they think, oh well, he'll be, extreme or whatever. But I really don't think he would be. Uh, I think he'd be pretty fair about things. And yeah, I thought he was going to run, but I haven't heard anything yet. So, I think he'd be a good choice.
I hope he does run, and if he's planning, I hope he sticks to it and runs. Even if he doesn't win, just his energy in the primary has a major influence on the electorate and can do a lot of great things for the United States and the world as well. Again, this is the Messiah Hour here on IsraelSportsNewsRadio.com. Thank you for joining us. Email MessiahHour@gmail.com, or you can email the station IsraelSportsAndNewsRadio@gmail.com. Our guest is Leslie Ann Stoffel from Real Clear Israel. Let's talk about a very interesting story that occurred in your home country, Canada, of course. The JDL got themselves involved, Jewish Defense League, regarding a protest at a church. So please tell us a bit about that.
Well, yeah, I know Mayor Weinstein from the Jewish Defense League, and he's in Toronto, I'm in Vancouver. But he contacted me and said that they were going to be doing this protest at a church because there was going to be a conference for this Canadian Friends of Sabeel. And I'm going to read to you what this Sabeel is, because it's one of these groups that it's one of these Christian groups that goes against being a Zionist. Like they're very much anti-Zionist, and they're actually, I'll get to it a bit later, but they're in a couple of minutes, but they're actually kind of tied in with the PFLP. So, but I'll just read it. What it says. Okay, they're called Canadian Friends of Sabeel. Now, this Sabeel is an ecumenical liberation theology center, organization based in Jerusalem. It was founded by a Palestinian priest and a former canon of St. George's Cathedral in Jerusalem. And it says here, this is from Wikipedia, it says, according to the official website, Sabeel strives to develop a spirituality based on love, justice, peace, nonviolence, and all this kind of stuff. But they are actually pro-BDS, and they try to get Christians who are Zionists to not be Zionists anymore and indoctrinate them with this stuff. So here is what the JDL sent me about it, and it says connecting the dots, Canadian Friends of Sabeel and the PFLP terror group. So it says, and this is why they were protesting it, because it says all church groups should be aware that by supporting Canadian Friends of Sabeel, they are supporting the PFLP. And the PFLP is listed by the government of Canada as a terror group. So what they had, this Canadian Friends of Sabeel had on their site was, let's see here, it says that, yeah, it says, our daughters will speak for us until Palestine is free. The Jewish state is silencing the mother, Khalida Jarrar, but her daughter, Yafa Jarrar's voice will ring loud and clear, free Palestine. So they are once again doing this free Palestine thing, which is, completely clear the entire state of Israel of all the Jews. And Canadian Friends of Sabeel are that's the reason why that the JDL was so concerned about them, because they are promoting these speakers who are, PFLP operatives, basically. So what Mayor Weinstein is also trying to do is to get the Canadian Friends of Sabeel tax. They have a tax. What is that word when they get tax
tax exempt status.
Yeah, tax exempt status.
Right.
They're trying to get that removed. So he sent a letter to the Canadian government to have that removed. All of us went to the demonstration. It was Thursday, Friday, Saturday. I didn't go Saturday. I went Friday. But when some of the people came out of the church to start talking to us and to the guys from the JDL, and there were other Christian friends, like the International Christian Embassy of Jerusalem were there, and some of the other Christian friends, Zionist Christian friends, were there. And these guys that were talking to our people, they were actually pro-Hamas. They were saying, well, Israel kills, like, they were spouting the same old lies that they hear from the media, like Israel kills children every day, and they're killing people every day, and doing all these terrible things to the Palestinians, and not holding Hamas into account at all. Like when our guys talked back and said, well, what about what Hamas does? What about this? What about that? They just dismissed it, and they didn't want to hear it at all. It's that same old thing of, they just had closed minds towards any kind of reasonable discourse that Hamas could be doing things wrong, and Israel could be doing something right. And I'm not saying that everybody at that conference was like that, because I don't know, but the ones that came out to talk to us, a lot of them were like that. And but then again, there were a couple that were swayed, because one of the guys in the group, I wasn't there for this, but he said he spoke to this one guy for about 2 hours before he was going to go into the conference, and he actually changed this guy's mind, and he didn't go into the conference, and he realized, yes, he needed to actually go back to his church and talk to the people there and start doing pro-Israel things. So, it was a mixed bag. Some of the people did not, their minds were completely closed, but then again, some were open. And it was even funny too, because I think there were 4 policemen out there, 1 woman policeman, officer, and 3 men. And actually, one of the police officers, one of the men, were very, very open, and he was talking away, and the guys were telling him things, truthful things that aren't said in the media, and this policeman was really open to it. So it was really interesting and eye-opening to see. Really, it was. And then that was Friday. So Friday evening, we all went to the Koel in Vancouver and had a really wonderful Shabbat dinner together. So that was pretty interesting. And it was actually the first time that I had heard vaguely about the Sabeel thing recently, but this was the first time that I'd been right involved in it, found out what they're doing, and actually been to a protest. I don't think I've ever been to a protest in my life, but it was very peaceful and everything, but it was the first time I've ever been to one. So yeah, that's another, Ari, it's like a can of worms. It just never stops. There's always some group and some people coming out with lies, and I don't know, it just never ends. It's a constant battle.
Well, that's why we're here doing the show. We're trying to fight that battle. That's what
Yeah.
That's what we're doing. So, again, if you're just joining us, this is the Messiah Hour here on IsraelSportsNewsRadio.com, and my guest is Leslie Ann Stoffel from Real Clear Israel, talking about how she was in a protest in Canada. This was regarding the JDL protest in the church that was trying to get people not to be pro-Israel for whatever reason. Kind of strange. Do you happen to know their motives or take a guess at what their motives might be? Because the whole thing sounds very strange from my perspective.
Well, that's why, like, they are Christian Palestinian, so-called, but really it's just another pro-Palestinian, anti-Israel group. And I think what they do is they couch themselves in these words like justice and peace, and once again they have their there's actually, I think, Jewish people even involved in this, like how you have the ones they like I said, they seem to have the Stockholm syndrome. They want to attach themselves to their abusers so that they can somehow I don't know, try to make themselves feel better. I don't know, but once again, the motivation behind this is to delegitimize the Jews and go after sort of gullible and uneducated about the issues in order to do that. Because it says here also in a little blurb in there, the thing about this Sabeel, it says disagreement with Zionist interpretation of the Old Testament. So it says the Sabeel's founder, Anglican priest Naim Atik, outlined his disagreement in what he sees as Zionist interpretations of the Old Testament in his 1989 book, Justice and Only Justice, A Palestinian Theology of Liberation. So what he is trying to push is this that replacement theology, which is an old anti-Semitic notion, which is the Christians replace the Jews. So do away, with any of the teachings of the so-called Old Testament and that sort of thing. So it's just another anti-Jewish, anti-Semitic group to try to delegitimize Israel and try to take over the place in history where the Jews were. That's basically all it is. And if anybody wants to read more about that, again, just Google Sabeel, Sabeel, and you can come up with the information on it, because it actually is something that more people should know about, and we should be exposing them, because once again, it just it's dangerous. It's a dangerous so-called theology and part of the BDS movement as well. So we need to try to get the information out there for people.
Indeed. Education is the key. That's power. Information is power. We have to let everyone know what's going on. Last question we have for you before we let you go. Very sad story, the earthquake in Nepal. There are apparently 200 Israelis missing. Obviously a lot of damage. In regard to the 200 Israelis missing, I understand that there are military forces going in, trying to find out what's going on. Can you give us the latest of that situation?
Yeah, well, just as I was reading this morning as quickly as I could to find out the latest thing, they have sent out what they call first responders from Israel to try to help to find missing Israelis. They're setting up field hospitals. They sent an 80-member Israeli humanitarian aid delegation to Nepal, and it will be joined shortly in Nepal by another cargo flight with around 170 trained military personnel. And during the next 2 weeks, the IDF search and rescue teams will be deployed near Kathmandu to locate survivors in the rubble of collapsed buildings. And yes, and again, a field hospital will be set up within 12 hours of arrival to provide medical services for the local population. It will have 2 operating rooms, 4 intensive care rooms, 80 hospital beds, and specialists in the neonatal and adult care. And the team will include dozens of Army physicians in the regular Army and the reserves. In the hours following the earthquake, Magen David Dome Director General Eli Bean conducted an evaluation of the situation and decided to launch an MDA humanitarian mission consisting of paramedics and doctors to Nepal. They'll be part of the Red Cross. So at this point, that's pretty much all I know. There could be updates that have happened yet that I'm not aware of. So at this point, that's all I know.
Okay, there you have it. Thank you, everyone, for listening. Of course, thank you to Leslie for being on the program. Great job as always. You can always find her on Real Clear Israel. That's the Facebook group. Leslie, great job as always. Thank you for being on the show today.
Oh, thanks, Ari.
And thank you, everyone, for listening. Again, this is the Messiah Hour at IsraelSportsAndNewsRadio.com. You can find the show on YouTube by typing in Messiah Hour with Ari Lewis. You can email the show at MessiahHour@gmail.com, or you can email the station at IsraelSportsAndNewsRadio@gmail.com. And if you'd like to make a financial contribution to the show, you can do so through my PayPal account, which is IsraelSportsRadio@yahoo.com. That is a different email than the station, so I'll repeat it one more time, IsraelSportsRadio@yahoo.com. Thanks to Leslie Ann Stoffel from Real Clear Israel. Thank you, everyone, for listening. Have a great day. Shalom. This is the Messiah Hour at IsraelSportsAndNewsRadio.com.